text, Christine.
Good evening. We'd like to call to order tonight's meeting of the Board of Finance this Tuesday, January 8th, 2019. Happy New Year to everybody. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up on the agenda, any public comments? Second on the agenda, correspondence. Third on the agenda is minutes.
Where is
yeah. While we're waiting for Dion to make some copies, why don't we all look at the minutes, make sure we're good with them, please?
I move to accept the minutes from the prior meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
I abstain.
Hold on, make sure.
I'll tell them.
Let's assume that there's no correspondence for the time being and move on to the first substantive topic. We need to do election of officers according to the charter. Technically, we were actually supposed to do this in December. We missed that window, so let's do it tonight. I guess first I'd entertain any nominations from the floor. We need to do chairman, vice chairman, and secretary.
I nominate Bob Manfreda to be chairman.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, I will. Abstain. All right, now we need to do vice chairman. Any nominations from the floor?
I nominate Wendy to be vice chairman.
Second.
Any other nominations? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye.
You'll see it.
Last position, the secretary. Any nominations?
I nominate Claudia to be secretary, right?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Second. Any other nominations? Not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Against? All right, done. All right, we'll continue to move on. The next topic on the agenda for tonight is the, it was a little bit out of order. We're supposed to be doing the Economic Development Commission, but the agenda's got Elderly Homeowners Program.
Oh, she's very quick.
All right, then you can go very quick.
This is the annual review,
Okay.
okay, which normally is done in November. But once again, you'll see three things I handed out. One is my Excel sheet. The second is a letter from the state of Connecticut. And the third is the current ordinance. We had not received the letter from the state in November. I received it sometime, even though it's dated November, in mid-December, so close to the holidays. I didn't think that it was going to be productive to try to set up a meeting then. Primarily what the objective is if you look on page 2 of the ordinance, you'll see the table, which is the current brackets that we offer benefits in. The state letter mirrors it except for the top bracket, income bracket. This part right here. This is up by the cost of living for Social Security, so nobody falls out of the program. This keeps all the people currently in the program and the lower brackets in the program. It does not touch the top bracket of the 48,000. That bracket there is the town's bracket that the town funds itself. My Excel sheet really is just a history of the years that we've had the program, funded this particular way. It used to be funded in a different way, but since they changed the program, this is a history of the program, the number of people that qualify, and the cost of the program.
And Ann, I'm sorry, just to be clear, the year is the fiscal year, or is it a calendar year?
It's the grand list year.
Thank you.
So October 1 then, right?
Yes, so the October 1, 2017 is the current year that we're working in. It's that grand list year. Yeah, the portion of it got cut off and I didn't realize until I just looked at it. The total number of applicants that applied was 335. 54 did not qualify.
Now, Ann, did those
right, next on the agenda, consideration of the bidding process, purchase and installation of the middle school chiller.
Okay. I'm gonna start us off.
Been
Mr.
out there
Chairman,
for a couple of years. Yes.
before you begin, I just want to make a note that just an hour ago, actually an hour and a half ago at this point, the Board of Selectmen approved this request and forwarded it to the Board of Finance for its consideration. Project total not to exceed $450,000, and at the request of the Selectmen, they added to it. So not only considering the chiller, but a water treatment system to prevent the hard water from damaging the chiller, which the reports show has been a problem. So that was approved by the Board of Selectmen earlier, and we established a tentative meeting date of, what was it, 22nd? 22nd of January for a special town meeting.
Okay.
Do you have a cost on the water treatment?
No, we don't.
No.
We just added a
We
contingency.
do have a cost because they added it in the Board of Selectmen meeting, but we do have preliminary cost on the actual systems though.
Well, I know, but we'd have to approve a dollar amount, not a contract.
And I think
so-
that's why they did the not to exceed. They were estimating it's about 20,000.
Yeah, it would both, we estimated it's gonna be 20,000, might be more with installation, but it would be competitively bid anyway. So we just wanted to set an upper limit on that,
And Matt, I'm sorry, one more time, the not to exceed was 450?
450.
That includes the water
Including,
treatment.
Correct.
that's both, the chiller
Perfect.
and the water treatment.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I don't even know what a chiller is.
So I'm gonna give you the
Oh,
whole
okay.
background. So
No,
is it okay,
I'm
Mr.
supposed to
Chairman,
know
if I
that.
start? Give a
Yes.
little background?
Please, thank you.
So when we came to you, goodness, a couple months ago with our emergency at the middle school with the boilers, I think we mentioned the chiller at that meeting. Because we anticipated this was also going to become a big issue. And we also mentioned, which you'll see later in the capital plan, the high school boilers. But I think you know that over the past few years, we've hired this company, Peregrine. And they've come in because it's no secret that for years, we've had multiple problems with our AC units in most of our buildings. And we really wanted to focus on the buildings that weren't being renovated to come in, give us an idea of what's going on, and that reconditioning that you approved in the budget as a capital project last year to extend to the high school, correct?
Right.
As part of that was part of that work. And so in that process, Kai, who's the electrical engineer, Bob, or?
No,
Mechanical engineer, I'm sorry, who has been evaluating all of our HVAC systems and systematically going through the schools and with Bob and making the repairs as needed on the different units, had identified, and I think Bob also, because it's been failing for a number of years, that the chiller at the middle school was about to, I don't know, for lack of better words, go to death's door. It was deteriorating, seriously. And over this past season, there were several times where the actual system completely broke down and was not functional for, I think no more than a couple of days.
Correct.
But the problem at the middle school is that, and it's certainly in the world, the temperatures have been much higher, but the design of the middle school is not really conducive without air conditioning. Because if you've ever been to the middle school, there's not a lot of windows. They're very small in the classroom, so the ventilation in the building is poor. And when the AC units aren't working, we kind of have a little joke, it literally rains inside. And because the humidity builds up so much that, and it creates layers of moisture on the floor that actually in this fall when it broke down, we started back to school, I actually had kids slipping in the hallways because it wasn't taking the humidity out of the air, which is part of what the air conditioning does. So Kai provides a very comprehensive overview of what the problems are. And I mean, the fundamental issue for the most part is that it's lived beyond its lifespan. That it was originally designed to be about a 25-year, we've gotten 27 years out of this particular chiller. And we've made repairs to keep it functional, but over and over again. But at this point, it's like putting money into a bad car. I mean, to use that analogy, that we keep pumping money into the system, and it's really not making a difference. It's breaking down more frequently. So we didn't want to come into an emergency situation when we got into the cooling system in the spring. Therefore, we thought it was prudent to bring it now so that we can bid it out and get it to, so that when we start our cooling season, we'll be ready to roll. You want to add anything, Terry?
Yeah, because when we came, with the boiler, we were in that emergency type situation. And I think it did make some of the members of the Board of Finance uncomfortable. So you had said, if this is really a pending issue, please get the details together, get back with us so that a full competitive bidding process can take place, and we can go through all the steps the way we should go through all the steps. So we are here, beginning of January, so that we can make that happen as quickly as possible.
So what kind of time frame do you see from this meeting on the 22nd to getting your bids, to getting all this installed?
We were saying like May.
We would hope to have it all done.
May?
Yes.
You don't need cooling before May?
Well, I mean,
You know, there's April break and that, I mean, we might have to live with a little bit, but.
And honestly, I mean, you're still talking about temperatures that aren't extremely warm.
Right.
But when you start getting into late May and June,
Oh, yeah.
is
Then
when,
it's hard.
when it's
Yeah.
really kicking in.
Then you need dehumidification and cooling
Sure.
at the same time.
And just to add the softener add-on, just to give that background too, was because one of the problems that has been identified is that because the water's hard, the calcium buildup as it pumps through the system is actually caused clogging, Bob?
That's correct, yeah.
Clogging through the system.
Calcification.
And I have personally, and I know Bob has too, spoken to Tom,
Bill, yeah.
Bill, and, you know, about is there anything we can do from outside the building, and there's really not. The only way to kind of mitigate it is to have it done inside the building. And so that was why the add-on was occurred with the water softening system, which does make sense.
Correct.
So there is some functionality to this system now, or is it completely non-functional?
No, there's some.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
it's currently running after we fixed it again.
Yeah.
But it's a multi-layer problem. You got control issues, you got water issues, and now you have mechanical issues that these parts, because it's 1992 vintage, are not available anymore. So we're doing a lot of retrofitting just to keep it alive.
And I can't think of how many times we've had it repaired last cooling system.
Right.
I mean, it was at least 5 or 6.
I cannot get through a full week without
Is there,
having a service tech there.
Is there downtime? Like, how do you schedule how to do this? I mean, is there?
So just like we replaced the boilers while kids were there, literally, we would do the same thing with the cooling system. So we schedule it so that it doesn't conflict with the operations of the school.
Right.
And the better part in this situation is we don't need it. Like when you change a boiler and you look for it in December, that's a little harder.
I understand. How long is the process? Is it, like, how long do you think it takes?
This should be a fairly quick thing because the new boiler or the new chiller plant won't sit in the same spot. It'll be a lot smaller.
I got it.
So it'll be a little easier to, the newer technologies.
And they're more efficient, aren't they, Bob?
Correct, and one nice thing about it is we're not pumping water outside anymore. And that was another layer of that multi-layer problem. We were putting water outside the cooling tower and then bringing it back in again.
So you're taking it into the heat.
And this runs all year. It's not just a yearly thing.
Yeah.
So we are going to bid both options, which is water cooled and air cooled. And then we're gonna have a committee that reviews the bids and come back. And Rich Straighten offered to be on that committee. He has some background, and of course Bob, and we'll have Bob from Peregrine, probably someone from Public Works. So, it won't be Terry deciding which is the best cooling system. So.
I have a question, Bob. Where would we be paying for this? Where would the money come from? Is this a general fund thing? Do we have capital non-recurring?
I think, no, well, I mean, when you look at the capital non-recurring, there certainly is not enough money in the current year's allocation to use it, because we already, set aside certain projects to use the $500,000.
So fund balance then?
So it would come from the fund balance.
Okay.
With this new equipment have the same life expectancy?
With the higher efficiency equipment, you'll get more
More,
years.
like maybe 30?
And the fact that you're not having water pumping through it will give it a lot
Well,
longer.
if we go with the air cooled versus the water cooled.
Yeah.
But I think it would be at least 25 years. Agreed.
So is there an industry standard for new buildings, whether they're using air cooled or water cooled at this point?
Well, a new construction there is, but not retrofitting into an older building. Because the way the building's piped, you have to have both heating, cooling in the building. Newer technology doesn't use that. So we would have to retrofit this piece of equipment into what our existing infrastructure is.
But Kai said we have the option of going either.
Oh, he does?
Yeah,
Okay.
he says we can go either water
Oh, that's
cooled
even
or
better.
air cooled, yeah.
Is there any cost differential? between
Yes,
the two?
his estimate is that the air cooled would be about $30,000 less than the
And
water.
operationally, would it be less as well?
Operationally, it would run about $3,500 more a year
So the
in terms of energy.
price estimate that's put forth to us, that's based on the higher
Correct.
price?
The higher price.
Okay.
With the addition of making sure we have the water conditioning
Mhm.
piece to it, yeah. And we hope to not get near that.
No.
Oh,
No.
great.
So if you used, so I have two questions. So I have very hard water at my house as well, so I totally understand the problem. Would the water conditioner serve to condition all of the water in the school, or is it simply
No,
for this?
it'll be an engineered system just for
For
this
this,
piece of
yeah.
equipment.
And you're not having other problems in the building with pipes?
We are, but not to this
leaking and
degree.
stuff? Correct.
You would, as Tom indicated, you can't do the entire building. The system would be so massive in order to do the entire building. So you have to get very specific on what you're treating. So this will have its own engineered system.
The boiler replacement went well.
Very well.
It is, the final piping and all is still being worked on, but the two new ones are generating heat. We did have a week where we switched on one boiler that was a little tentative. But we got through it, and so that's almost done. And that all came out of the 1% account, the unexpended funds account. And the Board of Ed also invested in replacement of how many valves in the?
68.
68 valves within the middle school. And that was to accomplish what, Bob?
It will allow the cool water that we're generating here to go through the building, along with a number, or there was 12 additional heating valves we changed at the same time while we were up in this space.
So I think when we're done with all of this, the middle school
Will be in great shape.
will be in great shape. Yeah.
And we'll move on to the high school.
Yes.
Just to give a preview.
And we had done Berry School, and Berry School is running well, running well.
So if there's no more questions, I would make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen's recommendation to replace the middle school chiller with the water treatment option at a cost not to exceed $450,000. Said funds to be appropriated from the Town of Bethel fund balance, subject to town meeting approval.
Second.
Yeah. Came out loud.
Does that give you the
Does that
flexibility
Town
take
to
meeting,
use
yeah,
the
they're going
air
on the,
cooled?
they said
Yes,
it was
it does,
Correct.
it does.
Oh, it's below the 1 million. Oh,
No,
1
town
million's
meeting.
referendum, never mind,
Yeah,
yep,
sorry.
got it.
You try to get the water as much.
A second on that motion?
I did a second.
A second.
Yep.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving us the heads up on that one. It was
Yeah.
nice kind of knowing that it
I
wasn't,
have
it
a
wasn't.
bottle of wine out of every water source in my house, so I understand.
So it would be better not to have the expense,
Hard,
you guys
hard
signaled
water.
it well,
Yeah.
so we were able to kind of think about
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Can you guys come to us sometime and not ask for money?
Next
and
the
just give
boilers.
us-
You are the Board of Finance.
I know, but we're nice people too.
You're right.
We've got nothing else on the agenda. No, we have the controller's report.
So real quickly, prior to the meeting, I handed out the
Yes.
6-month report. We're halfway through the year already. First page is a summary of the revenue. We've collected $41,169,000. We're in good shape with that. You can see that the first payment a couple of months ago came in from the state for the intergovernmental education of 1.979. We expect to receive the balance over the next 6 months. The second page is the summary of the expenditures, and pretty much everything is in line. The same issues we've had in prior months. Building and inspection is trending to be a little bit over, and we needed to bring in some summer help there to help with the additional permits that were coming in. Let's see. The fire marshal account is a little high at this point, but at the end of the year, what's causing that at this point is we have the payments for the fire abatement for the firemen flow through that account, and then we apply it back to the side. Whatchamacallit, the probate is over, but that's just a matter of billing the different, the other 3 towns for their portion at the end of the year. Revenue for the Park and Rec and library, not library, but the senior center. If you look at their accounts, they seem to be a little bit on the high side, but you got to remember that the revenue is on the revenue side. And that's pretty much it with the expenditures. So, I mean, we're in good shape. If you look at the amount spent, most of them are in line with the 50%, 52%. The one that's out of whack would be also insurance, because most of the insurance costs are paid up within the first 6 or 7 months of the year. So that's about it for me. I have
a question. As for the income collection, are we still seeing rate of collection in the high 98, kind of 99?
It probably is, but it's hard to say where it is right now because, you know, we're in the 3rd quarter of collections. So if you look back to the 3 quarters, or the first 2 quarters compared to the last year, we're probably in the same ratio. But that 99.2% collection rate, that'll come into play, you know, at the end of the year. I mean, she's got back revenue that she's already collected, and there's some homes that she's going to have a tax sale on. At this point, they have 4 or 5 homes selected. You know, if there's a mortgage on it, the mortgage company is going to pay their taxes. So, you know, but.
And do we have the CAF report for last year? That should be.
I talked to Joe today. Well, I actually emailed him. They're coming out next week to do a final, to finalize the audit at that point. So within this month, we should have it. So we'll have it during the budget process. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Matt at this point.
Do we have any other questions for Bob before I cover something? All right. I just want to take 2 minutes of your time just to give you an informational item. I passed out a sheet of paper that says Chestnut Ridge Storage Tank. There's no need for you to act on this because this is public utilities funds, but just to make you aware, the Public Utilities Department, as part of a multi-year, multi-million-dollar upgrade to the water system, will be constructing a water tank on the east side of town near the Chestnut Ridge Reservoir, and actually it will replace the reservoir and will no longer use reservoir water. In order to do this, we have to buy a lot, and that lot cost is $198,000. At this point, I don't think we need to come back to the Board of Finance because it should be covered under public utilities funds. It would still be subject to a special town meeting to, you know, we have to get clearance from planning and zoning and inland wetland. But aside from that, just wanted to make you aware of it, just so you know what's going on over in the public utility side. So the sellers of the lot agreed to the purchase arrangement, subject to approval by the various boards and commissions it has to go through. And we hope to begin construction of it sometime this summer. Probably.
Is that purchase, the 198, going to impact the costs by the public utilities services?
No, this has been long anticipated in the 20-year capital plan that we have. Actually, it's a 30-year capital plan. So this is in line with costs that we've already built into the rate structures. So it should just flow right through.
What's the size of this lot?
I'm sorry, what's that?
What's the size of this lot? Maybe it's in here, I'm just blind right now.
The size,
I mean, because in 198,000, I just blind.
Is it in the other letter? The Briar, is it the
just-
same as this Briar Cliff Manor property group? Is it the same thing?
it's about I think it's about
3 or 4 acres, I think.
that. I don't think the
big?
east lot is that big. I think it's a little over an acre.
Okay. That'd just be interesting to know.
And it's at the
2 point.
It's in Briar
oh
Cliff,
2
right?
point.
2 point.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's at the top. 2.26
Yeah.
Oh, is it in here?
basically.
I
Oh, it's
said,
in this letter, the letter from Marty,
Oh,
it's
right.
right in there.
Okay.
They go together.
Thank you.
So this will do a lot of good things. I mean, some people weren't aware of this, but the town of Bethel, or the utilities department, was slapped with a consent order a few years back because of buildup of toxic chemicals in the system. And this has been brewing for a long time, and one of the things we need to do is get off reservoir water. So utilities has refurbished the 2 wells that are over by the old police station, drilled 2 new wells, so we have the equivalent of 4 new wells, and we're currently in exploratory engineering on a second well site that will add 2 more wells. We expect those to come online in 2021. The approval process and the testing process with DPH and EPA is very long, but when all 6 wells are at full capacity, we will not be shipping reservoir water to any homes or businesses. It'll all be well water, which is, the downside is it's a little on the hard side. It's not the worst, as we discussed, but you don't, it's very pure, it's very clean, very minimal chemical intervention is needed to safely send it into homes. It's really just trace amounts of chlorine to keep it from developing any organics when it's in transit sitting in the pipes. But system upgrades are moving along very well. We have 8 water mains under replacement this year as well. Most of these are being financed through Department of Public Health, either through loans or grants or a combination of those. And this water tank is really kind of the capstone of what was the immediate need that we started on 5 years ago. So this really, it also improves fire safety. A little bit of trivia. Before we started on the water improvement plan, and we've replaced about $3 or $4 million worth of pumps to increase pressure and give us the ability to shift water from one part of the system to the other. We were actually in a budget meeting in this room, I think it was in the month of February in 2011, and the fire alarm went off. And everybody went outside, and we stood out in the snow, and we waited for the fire department to come, and they came down the street, and they went right by us and went over to the library, because the fire alarm was going on there too. And there was no fire. The system was in such poor shape, and it was so sensitive that a fire over 2 miles away triggered the alarm when the pumper truck tied into the fire hydrant, because the system in buildings like this is based on pressure. So the fire alarm is triggered. It's designed to assume that if there's a fire, the automatic sprinklers let go and start spraying water, and that causes a drop in pressure in the system. So the fire alarms are going off on a regular basis. So we are past that. There's been a lot of improvement. So this, just to keep you in the loop on this.
So Matt, as you, I guess, decommission, for want of a better word, the source of the reservoir, do you still have to maintain that as we have? Is it a reduced cost of maintaining that as a source? Is it a backup source? What happens to kind of the switch over from reservoir to well?
Not much. It's still designated as a water source by the state of Connecticut. We would designate it as a backup source. And there's no impact on the town budget at all. It's all through the enterprise funds on the public utility side. It will allow us to decommission the water treatment plant up there though, because that wouldn't, so a lot of the money that goes into that wouldn't be necessary anymore.
So there's a savings on that
There's
side.
yeah, there's a savings there too.
Okay.
So, anyway.
The other thing is, I'm sure you're aware of it, but the reason why the EDC is able to sell the properties at Clark Park is because of the Eureka water tank that was installed a couple of years ago. Because that increased the pressure to the park. Without that, they weren't able to develop.
So, that's all, folks, unless there's any questions.
Thank you.
Can
Nothing else on the agenda?
I move to adjourn?
I would second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have our schedule yet for February for all of the budget presentations, or no? Not yet?
No, we're working on that
We're
now.
probably gonna have it like starting in the middle. Last
Okay.
year, I looked at the schedule from last year, started on the 13th.
Okay.
It was the 13th and the 15th, and then a couple of following week, I think it was 2021.
Okay.
And then they went into the deliberations the following week for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I think it
When
was.
would we be able to get that, just because